Hey guys, welcome back. Another fun day of optical illusions coming your way. Before we get started with our next practice of op art, we're going to learn a little bit more about the history of opt art. So, are you guys ready for this? I hope you are, because here we go.
Let's learn about op art, not to be confused with pop art. Op art stands for optical art, art that uses optical illusions. These are pieces that trick the brain into thinking something is happening that couldn't really happen in real life. The name op art was coined by Time magazine in 1964. The first op artist I want to talk about is Bridget Riley, who was born in London in 1931. Her father was a printer who owned his own business. She didn't have much schooling until attending college, and as an adult she worked in a glassware shop, as an illustrator, and as an art teacher. In 1958 she saw the work of Jackson Pollock and was inspired. She was also inspired by the scientific dot style of Georges Seurat. Around 1960, she began her signature op art style. Some of her best-known op art is black and white, geometric lines and shapes that create the illusion of movement. Another op artist is Victor Vasarely. He often used colorful paintings to make 3D illusions by having clever uses of color or shapes that bend as if they are popping out of the painting. My favorite op artist is M.C. Escher. He was born Maurice Cornelius Escher on June 17, 1898 in the Netherlands. He was a sickly child who had trouble in school but was very good at art. In 1922, Escher went traveling and in Spain was inspired by the Moorish architecture at the palace called Alhambra. The decorations in this architecture are very geometric, and it has tessellations. A tessellation is an interlocking pattern that repeats with no gaps. At first, he drew very realistic art of the many places he visited, but he became more and more interested in the strange things you can do using math in art. He made impossible structures that twisted crazily in a way that wouldn't work in normal space and gravity. He used tessellated designs, and they're some of his most famous and impressive and recognizable works. Check out some of his art here. This one. This. Oh. Okay. These. This is a beautiful work. I like the details here. Very good. Very impressive. Look at all the effort that it must have taken. Interesting. In April of 1966, Martin Gardner featured Escher's art in his Mathematical Games column in the magazine The Scientific American. Escher became famous with math lovers for his wild art that used math to bend the laws of physics. Another intellectual who did op art was Akiyoshi Kitaoka, who would make very bright, colorful, and almost hard to look at op art that tricks your brain with the bright overlapping colors. Let's look at some examples of op art. Maybe this one, this. These are older, newer. Some simple, some more complex. Traditional, very strange. Okay, guys. Bye.
Okay, so we're going to let the coloring magic begin. So, one thing to think about as you're coloring it in versus just choosing random colors is, do I want to have any of my color theory stuff in there? Maybe you choose all primary colors. Maybe you're choosing all secondary. Maybe you alternate where it's like primary, secondary, primary, secondary. Maybe you do that. I don't know. Maybe it goes primary, secondary, primary. There's so many options, you guys. Oh my goodness. Get creative and have fun. Maybe you do all warm colors, right? All those warm fire, sun type colors. Maybe you do all cool colors where it's that lake and the water and cool breezes. Maybe you do that. It's up to you. But we want to make sure that as we are shading it in, we want to make sure that we are doing the techniques that we've been learning for shading, as far as like how hard we're pushing down with our pencil, the direction that we're going into to have it. Let me make this a little bit bigger for you guys, so that it goes from darkest on the outside to lightest on the inside. So it's going to go dark, light, dark, dark, light, dark, dark, light, dark. Or if it's going the other way, it's still dark, light, dark, right? Dark, light, dark, like that. Because that's going to give it the illusion of popping out and popping in. And actually, I should actually rephrase that. If you're doing this way, you might even want it to go light, dark, light. Sorry about that, because that's going in. The further back it goes, we want it to look like it is getting darker. Okay? So consider those techniques, and I'm going to show you guys that as well. But yeah, just making sure we're remembering to use those techniques as far as making it look like it's coming out in space and going back into space too. And we're going to continue doing that. So here's what it could look like when it's done. But remember, you get to add your own personal touch, your own personality into it. If you choose, you don't even want to alternate colors like this. There are other ways and other techniques as well. In fact, I'm going to show you one right now. So I am choosing warm colors for this strip here, and I'm actually going to do it almost as if it's a color gradient within it. So I'm going to go from, let's see, where did I put those? Here we go. So these are all warm colors, right? I'm going to start with kind of the more peachy here, then pink, then a reddish pink, then red, and it's going to continue all the way down to more of like a magenta down here. So that's what I'm choosing to do for this guy. Remember, pencil technique and pencil holding matters, and it can help with how it looks. So I like to hold my pencil like this, especially when I'm doing the lighter layers, and I hold it out back here because there's less pressure when I'm holding my pencil like this and I have it flipped here. So sometimes I'll hold my pencil like that, but usually I hold it like this. We're getting more surface area by holding it this way than if I had held it like how we write our name. Okay, so holding my pencil just like that. And here we go. I'm going to color this little guy in here. I'm going to give it all that first base layer of super duper light. Remember, as you're doing this, we're kind of thinking this is a building process, right? Never would I ever expect to get it looking exactly how I want it to look by just putting one layer on there. I'm going to have to do multiple layers. So it might even be hard to see on the camera there, but I've got my lightest layer down. I'm going to move my hand closer towards the tip of the pencil. It's going to automatically cause me to put more pressure on the pencil. And I'm going to start towards those outer edges where I know I want it to be darker. And start working with that. And on this edge too. Don't be afraid to turn your paper, you guys. I turn my paper so much as I'm coloring to make sure that we don't get any of that lininess. We don't want it to look liney when it's done. I also lick my lips a lot as I create artwork. Does anyone else do that? I need to put on chapstick constantly whenever I'm doing artwork because I'm constantly licking my lips. It must be just like a concentration thing. All right, moving my hand in a little bit closer. I want to get some of these real dark areas towards the edges. This is a tiny little space, so it is hard to get all those values from lightest to dark within this tiny little space. But we're doing it. It's happening, guys. It's happening. Here we go. Here's some more. All right. Not perfect, but you guys can see where we're going with that. And I'll do another one in here too. Let's see, where was my next color? Was this one, I think? Yeah, that looks right. So once again, holding my pencil farther back and giving it that lightest shade first. And to prevent lininess, I am going to give her a little turn. I like to it's almost like making an X's, one way, one the other way. There we go. So we've got that lightest layer in. Bring it down. Get a little closer. And start adding some of those darker values towards the edges, like so. And closer yet, get towards those edges even more. I'm going really quickly, you guys feel free to take your time. But we do have a lot to get through, I suppose, so I guess don't take too much time. But definitely, you know, feel free to take a little more time than what I'm doing here. I'm going to switch it because now I'm going to be pushing down a lot of pressure. So now you can see I'm actually holding it more like how when I would write my name. And sometimes when I push it a lot of pressure, I feel like I can do that a little bit better with my pencil flipped in this direction. Play around, experiment with that, and see what works best for you. As artists, we all have different techniques that work well for us. But you can start to see how by doing this, I'm getting that illusion of it coming whoop, out towards us in space. So the more something comes towards us in space, the lighter it gets, the further back it goes into space, the darker it gets. So always keep that concept in your mind as you are creating and coloring this in. So once again, technically this portion of it we'll be reintroducing and reminding you of tomorrow, the coloring part. But if you want to get that head start on it today, because this is going to take a lot longer than just creating the spider web, you go right ahead and do that. You get a head start on that portion. Not a problem. I'm so excited to see how these come along. We'll see you next time.